grab you a cup of coffee, and today we are going to talk about how to use the movies as literature method to teach biographies. Hey everyone, today is kind of a bittersweet moment because this is now my 4th year of doing movies as literature, and it also means that I have 2 kids, senior year, fixing to graduate. So it's kind of that bittersweet of like, yes, we made it all the way through to senior year, and it was never like we were going to put our kids in public school. I just had this fear when I started homeschooling that like eventually homeschooling would become illegal, and like I always had that thought of like preparing my kids as much as possible for if they were put in public school. But then we didn't end up having to worry about that because now we're looking at approaching our senior year, and Lord willing they'll get to finish it through homeschooling. So just kind of raw and real, that's kind of where my brain was as the years went on. But I'm super excited, but also kind of bittersweet. So what we decided was when we first started doing movies as literature, and I've talked about this in another video, there are different videos and different topics to look at. If you are interested in movies and as literature, I'll try to link a link up here and down there to all of the different kinds of ways to use movies as literature. There's even topics that you could do that we have never done before, like sci-fi movies as literature, just historical. We have mostly done historical ones. I am not a horror fan. Some people are, and some people can do like just horror novels, and that can be their thing. Or you can do all westerns. Another one that we had debated doing was all Christian films. But the more that we looked into Christian films, a lot of them were biographies. And then there were other like non-Christian based biographies that we wanted to include in. So instead of doing Christian literature as movies for high school year, we did opt to do biographies instead. So I'm going to move the camera slightly, and then I'm going to put a list on the screen of the movie list that we are going to be using for 12th grade attentively right now. I will go ahead and say we'll do the 11th grade review soon, and we actually turned a movie off halfway through it and decided we were not going to finish the movie or do that for a report and immediately turn on another movie for 11th grade, and we'll talk about that at the end of the school year of why we replaced it and what we used instead and what we're looking at for our eventual rising 11th graders, because we have 2 more kids after the current 2 11th graders. But let me move this aside, and then we will talk about the biography movies as literature. So like we did at the beginning of the 2023-2024 school year, I'm going to have a list right here on the screen, and we're going to just reveal them as we go through the list. If you want a PDF of this list with the attentive dates, how we did it. So the way we do it is we do one movie every 2 weeks. That gives them plenty of time for my advanced placement students to read the book to go with it. That gives everybody plenty of time to work on the reports for them, because we don't do book work 5 days a week. So we want to try to give time for them to work on those. So doing it every other week does work. But there are times we have done a movie once a week on specific topics whenever they kind of double up. But overall, the goal is usually 2 weeks for one movie. So that you'll see that in there. And then also like I provide a source list of where we got the movies from, or where we access the movies from. There's also a worksheet completed in red, and that becomes clear or white as we enter Y for yes, that the worksheet was completed. And that means worksheet completed, the reason we did that is when we're traveling, we actually print off worksheets for our kids, and then they do a movie review based on a specific topic. Like it might be Christian perspective of this movie, life lesson I've learned from this movie, the character I most identify with, movie summary, and then we'll print those off, and then when we're traveling, they fill those out by hand as we're traveling, usually for our longer distances, 4+ hours. That's something school they can do during the school year while we're traveling. For our upcoming trip to Michigan and Canada, it actually falls in between our summer and fall semester, so we're actually not going to be doing it for that. But like, if it was in the middle of our school year, we would take it and let them do that. That way they're still completing the work while we're traveling and in driving, and then they can also explore like the sightseeing things once we get to our destinations. So that's why it says worksheet completed, so we just leave it that way, and then we do the grade. I never learned this until a couple years ago, but a lot of people actually expect when you're homeschooled, because you're on a 1-to-1 ratio, 1 teacher, 1 student, they're expected to make A's all the time. And people in the public school world sometimes make not nice comments to homeschoolers about that, but literally if you're on a 1-to-1 ratio, there's no excuse for your kid to not be making an A+. So normally, and also like for homeschool parents, if your child has behavioral issues and like just flat out refuses to do the assignment, they get a lower grade because, I mean, in the real world, if you get an attitude with your boss, you could get fired. So that's kind of like the scenario for that. But I do put the grade in there just for my benefit and for record keeping purposes. Honestly, like even if they have to redo the report a couple times with some edits, I'm still going to give them an A+ as long as they put the effort in, did it on their own, didn't cheat and like look up, you know, stuff online or anything like that, which ours usually don't have access to as much of that resources. And we don't allow like AI on their devices because of that. So, but let's go through the list. And like I said, we're going to review one movie at a time. If you want that printed off as a PDF though, that'll be available to our members at 99 cents a month and above. I try not to spend or charge a lot of money for the PDFs that we make because I know that homeschoolers are on a tight budget. But if you're interested in this as a list, I can print it as a PDF and then I can, or download it as a PDF. And then for the members, you can say, hey, I'm a member. Here's my, or you can message me after you become a member and say, here's my email. And then I will, or you can email me and, you know, with proof of me becoming a member, and then I will email it back to you. Because we have an email just for our homeschool account for things like that. Again, going through the list. So the first one on here is an example of why we're not doing Christian ones. We just switched to doing biographies. And number one is The Greatest Showman. This is one that, and also let me preface one thing real quick with this list. There are some movies on this list I've wanted to do for movies as literature for a long time because biographies are true stories, which means that it's still written work. But some of these movies I feel are more appropriate for older students. And like, I'm not letting my 8th grader watch The Greatest Showman because there is some language in it and some things in it. We'll get down the list later. There's other things in there that like, I would rather my children wait until they're a certain age before watching some things that I would deem more adult content for this. And by the time they finish this, one of them will be 18, one of them will be almost 18. So that was kind of the thought process. And it also kind of gives them something to look forward to because we had tentatively made this list 2 years ago and it became, I get through this and then I'll get to do this at this age. And like it was a fun thing for them to look forward to. So the first one here was Greatest Showman. The next one on here is Six Below. I actually have never watched Six Below, but it was in the $5 DVD bin at Walmart one day, and it became highly recommended. It's supposed to be Christian-based, of a story of a young man who basically gets lost in a snowstorm and was an atheist and then converts to Christianity in the middle of that snowstorm. So that was something interesting to look at. The Case for Christ is, again, that reporter who, again, atheist, starts researching, trying to prove that Jesus didn't resurrect. And because most people believe Jesus died, the argument is, did Jesus resurrect? And so he tried to find proof that Jesus did not resurrect from the grave, and then he converted. So that one's also on there for that. The next one is I Can Only Imagine. And as far as I understand it, this is actually the true story of how the song I Can Only Imagine was written. And we were it's not a new film, but I just recently became aware that it is a movie. And I Can Only Imagine was the first song I ever learned to do in sign language. So it has like a personal meaning to me. And so my kids have grown up hearing it. So it's kind of interesting to see a story kind of behind the scenes of a song that they really love. The next one on here is October Sky. And as a current Tennessee resident, I'm super excited about this because when I was a kid, when October Sky was being filmed, my great aunt lived walking distance from where the film was recorded. And it's really cool, and I've actually been to the set. Now, we went and visited afterwards because like it was so crazy when they were doing the filming of the movie there, and it's a tiny town in East Tennessee. So like I didn't get to actually go while they were filming it, but I got to go and see these sites, like walking distance from her house, after the movie was filmed, because I still had all like the decorations and stuff on the buildings from when this was filmed. So my goal is we're going to watch it and then we're actually going to go where this movie was filmed. So yeah, really looking forward to October Sky. And yes, the teens had to watch October Sky in October. So the next one says Adventure Through the Walt Disney Archives. So I have seen multiple Walt Disney based biography movies. And I thought there was one on Disney Plus, and I was pretty sure when I made this list 2 years ago there was, but now all of a sudden I can't find it. And sorry if the lighting keeps changing. I don't know how to set up a light in here without setting up my big light, and Matt usually sets that up for me, so normally during the day I don't really have that set up. So if that ever becomes a problem on days that I'm doing filming, I can have him help me set up before he leaves for work or something, to do it the night before. But also, like, it's kind of weird weather right now. Like, we were under 20 to watch all last night, but we made it through just fine. But yeah, so like I went to try to find one and I couldn't find it. But a lot of the Adventure Through the Walt Disney Archives actually has clips of the history of Walt Disney and things that he did and reasons why he did things. And then we also did the Behind the Magic, I think is what it's called. They're doing math, I'm not going to ask them right now. But we recently watched through that series of like the story behind the rides. And the first season is all about rides that Walt himself commissioned, and either was there for the finish of it or he commissioned it before he passed away. So I wanted to do like some more of that. But we'll find something. It's going to be, my goal is to do Walt Disney based biography things for that. If the Adventures Through the Walt Disney Archives doesn't quite do that, we might try to find something different. The next one on here is Saving Mr. Banks, which is the true story of P.L. Travers growing up and the real life inspiration for Mary Poppins. This is one that, again, I wanted to wait until they were older because of some of the content in it. And it also does show like a behind the scenes clip of Walt's life right before he passed away. And Tom Hanks does a beautiful job of playing Walt Disney for this movie. But yeah, that was another one of waiting until they were older. Fly Away Home, super fun movie about this girl helping these geese that she's raised and helping them to migrate. So the next one on here, normally at Christmas time, I would put a Christmas one in here. But I felt doing a biography, this one had to go here, and it's Pearl Harbor. And I know this is a really hard biography-based movie to watch, but also, like, my kids watch Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. There's war scenes in that. And we have the extended edition of the Battle of the Five Armies. It's actually rated R. So I think my kids are old enough to be able to handle it. It's one of those I've already told them, like, it's going to be a hard movie to watch, but also, like, there's sometimes that we have to make it through those hard moments. So we're going to watch it together. We're going to get through it. And like I said, some of these movies I may just watch with my 12th graders, and then the other two will watch theirs separately. And we'll talk about how we're doing that later, of having one that's doing 9th grade for fall and 10th grade for spring and summer, while the other one's doing 10th grade for the whole year. The first movie of the second semester is going to be Dolphin Tail. So, fun fact, I was actually invited to the Knoxville premiere of this movie and actually got to feel a replica of Winter's Tail, the sock that Winter wears, because I was invited personally by somebody who works for Hanger Prosthetics and Orthotics. They actually got to host this, and we actually got to go and talk about the tail before the movie and then go and see the movie in person. My oldest was the only one that went with me, I think, at the time, and we had a wonderful time. It was the first time I think she ever sat through a movie. So it was really cool to, like, I actually got to see that in person and get to actually feel like Winter's Tail, or the sock that they made just for Winter, and like how that has changed prosthetics for even today. It changed prosthetics for humans today, of inventing this new thing for people who have sensitive skin. And it was really cool to have that experience. So that was, when the kids suggested that one, I was like, yeah, let's do that one. I don't have Dolphin Tail 2 on here because we didn't have room. But the next one on here is The Most Reluctant Convert. And I've heard this one's kind of a tough one too, but it is the true story of C.S. Lewis. Now, I will preface here, there are times when we do movies as literature, we don't do written reports for their literature. And with literature, it's literature, composition, spelling, it's everything all together. I will correct them. We will learn, we review commas and semicolons and things like that as we're doing these reports. But it does it in such a real life way of having to present a report of your findings that I feel like my kids are learning commas and semicolons and nouns and adjectives and adverbs better just from doing it this way. And they grew up learning nouns, adjectives, adverbs, pronouns, so they don't really need that review as much. But sometimes we take a break from those reports and we do something different. So for the most reluctant convert, instead of doing a report, we are actually going to use the Hillsdale course on C.S. Lewis. And it's taught by 2 to 3 different teachers through the Hillsdale College. And one of my kids is interested in Hillsdale College, so we kind of like adding Hillsdale College in anywhere that we can. And the courses have all been wonderful that we have taken so far. So that is what they're going to be doing. Instead of a report, is they're going to be watching these lectures. And the lectures do have questions that you have to answer before you can watch the next one. But you can retake the questions if you've just missed something. But I kind of like adding that back in a little bit too, because it does kind of go back to that. You know, there are times you will still have to take classes of question and answer. So that's what we're going to be doing instead. The next one on here is the blind side. And again, because there is some language content in it, and because it's also a hard topic, I wanted to wait until they reached 12th grade year to do the blind side. And also my kids are sports fans. I'm not really as much, but they are. So being able to add something in the sports for them kind of makes me happy. So the next one on here is going to be A Bear Named Winnie. I actually saw this as a teenager, I think. Maybe I saw it later. But it's the true story of the bear that inspired Winnie the Pooh. And it goes through the whole story of how Winnie ended up in London. And I personally liked it. I don't remember there being anything really bad in it. I know it does have some war footage in it, but I don't remember specifically. The next one on here is Christopher Robin, which Ewan McGregor does a fantastic job as adult Christopher Robin. And it was funny because the other day my kids were like, oh yeah, we're going to do Christopher Robin. I'm like, yeah, Ewan McGregor. They're like, who? I'm like, Obi-Wan Kenobi. And they're like, no, it's not. And then I showed them the trailer and they're like, he doesn't have a beard. Because it's so funny because like I learned later that it was Ewan McGregor and I didn't realize it because like I had seen him as Obi-Wan Kenobi since Star Wars Episode 1, and that came out when I was a teenager. So like to see him as an adult in a movie with no beard, it was kind of interesting, kind of a setback of like, wait, what? But yeah. So that's kind of another fun thing of like, I want to see Ewan McGregor as Christopher Robin with Winnie the Pooh telling him to carry a red balloon around London. So that one's going to be really fun too. Like this is such a fun list. I'm like really looking forward to this list. The next one on here is Remember the Titans. And I have seen that one multiple times. Again, it's kind of a hard topic to talk about how some people just were not as open to desegregation. And to watch a beautiful story of like, how it pieces together. And it wasn't all like unicorn kisses and rainbow stickers. Some of it was, you know, they had to butt heads and they had to learn to work together. And sometimes it was through not nice circumstances. And sometimes they worked together and they made it through. So that's another one that I'm looking forward to. Normally I would do like one like that to tie in with our U.S. history, like when we're talking about desegregation. But, they're already finishing U.S. history, and again, I wanted this to be saved for biography. The next one on here is I Still Believe, which is the biography of Jeremy Camp when he wrote this song for girlfriend, fiance. I think they eventually get married. I haven't seen it yet, but I saw a trailer for it, and I was just like, I'm not crying, you're crying. So it was another one of those, like, it's a movie based on a song, and the story behind it with the people involved in it. The next one on here is one that my kids have actually seen for years, and we thought we would throw something familiar in here, and it's The Queen of Katwe. And it's a true story of a, what country, was it Kenya? I don't even remember. But she lives in Africa, and it faces the real fact that kids in Africa, they can't just go and apply for sports because they're afraid that if they get injured, they won't have the medical means to be able to treat their own children, so they learn to play chess instead. And I love watching stories like that because it brings back into the real world of like sometimes in America we get so caught up with our first world problems that we forget that some people's real world problems are like clean drinking water or food to eat, or hey, I can't go play soccer because if I get hurt, I might be permanently injured for the rest of my life just from a soccer injury, which their soccer is really intense. It just really is. It's way more intense than U.S. soccer is. But yeah, it kind of brings back into that real world perspective. And then the last one on here our last movie with my last time teaching my high school, my 12th graders before they graduate, is The Sound of Music. And it's going to end the year with a fun note. And it does have, you know, World War II, talking about Nazis in there. And it's going to be kind of hard. But also, like, it's a fun movie to end with. And it's a lot of growing up. And yeah, so I'm really, really looking forward to this list of movies and being able to teach it along with my 12th grade students and taking them through that final step of their journey before they either go college or career and take that next step that God's leading them on. But that's it for today's video. Thank you to all of our members for supporting this content and allowing us to continue making videos. And don't forget that members will have access to a free PDF of all of these printed out for you that you can receive in your inbox. You just send me an email once you've become a member. If you already are a channel member, send me an email if you want this, because some of our members are not like into the homeschool content. They're more for the travel stuff, and that's okay. You don't have to be. You don't have to be into, you can choose what videos you want to watch and don't want to watch. I'm okay with that. And thank you, all of you, even if you can't financially support us right now, just watching and liking, and sometimes those positive comments mean so much, because sometimes we have a really rough day and then I'll see a positive comment on our video and I'm like, oh, it's such a huge relief. So thank you for all of your positive comments and subscribing, and we will see you next time.